So, okay. So welcome to our Foundation 5 and Tier 1 weekly call. So, and welcome to our newbies, Angie and Taylor, and then Jess is going to watch later. So we're so excited that you're here with us. And the whole idea of this call is so that you can get that support you need where you are on your journey. And we're going to just help you. So that way you don't feel like lost, because that first week you're kind of like, what am I doing? Where is all this? What's all this lingo? And we're going to help you walk through that and be able to hold your hand as much as you want it. And just so you know, that is what I get to do. As much as you want to utilize me, I am here for you. So we have these weekly calls. And then I also have not office hours, coaching session times, either 20 minutes or deep dives. Just like you're doing a deep dive with Connie, we do about one deep dive per quarter. But I will tell you, and Jerusha can tell you this too, in Foundation 5 and Tier 1, where it's sometimes a lot of like, it seems like we call it the tech side of things or getting started. Sometimes that takes a little longer than 120-minute session. So typically, I just encourage you to do at least one coaching session a week with me. So that way it keeps times open for, it keeps times for other people. But you can decide, is it a 20-minute or is it a 45-minute? Okay. So, and initially when you first get started, the other way to stay in touch is, I love Marco Polo, WhatsApp. You are free. If you're like, I've gotten a couple of people, I'm sorry to bother you. Nope, that's my job. Bother me. But just like you, I may have times that if I don't get back to you immediately, it's just because, right, moms, we have our families and we get going. So same thing, if I send you something, I know you'll get to me when you can. So just as we're going forward. So just kind of that idea. And then you'll be able to find my scheduling times in the disciplethoughtleaders.com on that member vault page under my DTL team. And it will have my sessions. I'll also post them in the WhatsApp so that way you can find them. If you're like, okay, I need a 20-minute, my 20 minutes can be used for helping you with your Foundation 5 and Tier 1. They can also be used for if you're like, I feel like I'm sinking and my mindset is off, please reach out. I've got the life-saving device. I'm happy to help you. And sometimes it's just because you're like, I need to reach out, but I don't know why. And I feel like I'm drowning, or that pushback is back. We're here to love and support each other. So that's what we're here for. And that's what the WhatsApp thread is for too. So, okay. So kind of give you that idea. Each week as we have on these calls, the first thing that we'll do is we'll go through what we call wins and learning, like we did, you saw at the DTLC. So wherever you were at, okay, what was a win that you had or a learning that you had as you were working on your goals? Okay, and then we'll go into Q&A. I'll probably do each week a little bit of instruction, like training. This week we'll talk a lot about what Foundation 5 is and where you're at and that kind of thing. So does that make sense? And then at the end, we set our goal for the next week. So Angie, you are awesome. You sent me a weekly goal and review, and Taylor, you reached out and said, am I supposed to do this? I know something. So both of you are on it. And I'm going to update the Foundation 5 weekly goal sheet because we're going to make it super simpler. Because Angie, you're like, okay, I did all of these things in one day. And what we'll do is on Monday, I'll send you the rate and review, which is basically, how did your goal go? What was that like for you? And then at the end of this meeting, we'll set your weekly goal. And it will be 2 or 3 questions? Okay, what's your goal for this week? Does that make sense? So we've really tried to make it simple. So that way you get in that habit. So that way, when you move on to the speaking track, which will be your next track, then you'll already be in that habit of setting your goal. And we'll help you with that so you kind of have an idea of where that is. Does that make sense? Okay, any questions so far? Okay. Okay, so let's jump into your wins and learning. Let's go into your wins and learning. What was something for you this week that was either a win or learning that you had? And it can be directly related to Foundation 5 or whatever, Angie, what you put in your goal sheet, you can share that if you feel like you want to share that.
Mine, I kind of shared it in our little circle, WhatsApp, but I've just been praying to try and and hear him and find out how he speaks to me, because I've just been like, gosh, I don't even hear you. Like, and I think, to be honest, like I'm a good person and have such a good heart. I think I was doing a lot of things anyways. But I just didn't acknowledge how he spoke to me. And I actually went for a therapy session with Wendy on Friday, because I was like, okay, I want to get ahead of this healing retreat because I'm hoping I have this like little breakthrough. Um, and we were talking, and she was like, and like, Angie, that's the spirit. Like, that's the spirit talking to you. It's like, there was my first confirmation. And then when I left, I have a friend that is going through some stuff in her, in a divorce. She just got remarried, and it's just been like awful. And I went through it. And so it was so weird. I left Wendy's, and like 5 minutes later, I'm like, I just need to call Seth and Karen. And I never have spoken with Seth, and he actually is the one that's gone, her husband, who has gone through what I have. And I caught him on the phone, both together, and actually like just told him, listen, keep your head held high. Your kids are watching you right now. Like, just this whole, like, I don't even know where it came from, somewhere inside me. And he said, I just want to let you know that you had to have been prompted by the spirit to reach out to me. And so I had like 2 confirmations of, okay, like he just talks to me in my mind. Like, I get it. Thank you. But it's taken me 3 years to be like, gosh, come on. Like, I'll do what you want me to say. Like, I'll do what you want me to do. I got to know what it is first. I feel like I'm on that, what's that show with Tom Cruise? And he's like, let me help you. Help me. Come on, let me help you. Help me. Like, Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like Jerry Maguire.
Come on. And I finally feel like that was a big deal to me, because I can't move on, I don't think, forward in any of this until I can hear him. So that was a big breakthrough for me.
I was so excited for you when you posted that. I know at the retreat you talked about that you really struggled, and I was like, yay, Angie.
It was awesome. So thank you.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I once heard Elder Bednar say, it's like, does a fish know it's in water? And when you have been surrounded, and Andrea, I want to first tell you that I think that you are leaps and bounds ahead of the game, and you're further than you think you are, because so many people don't take the time to go, how does he speak to me? And the fact that you said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, just help me know. And so he's been giving you these little, I call them post-it notes from heaven. Like, oh, here's an experience. Here's an experience. And then you go, and it's going to happen more. Like, I know for me, I'm like, oh, like sometimes people say goosebumps. I'm like, oh, I got goosebumps. I'll tell you, the more I've worked with Connie, we're like, oh, confirmation, but I didn't realize that. I'm like, or is that just me being like, oh, goosebumps, crying, is that just a cliche? But I love what you said too. The words just came. And that is one indication for me, is if something comes to me and I go, I don't know if I remember exactly what I said, but it came out, right? Then I'll be like, that wasn't me. I was just the voice for the spirit.
Well, the crazy thing is earlier that day, like, especially coming home from the retreat, like my husband and I are like on totally different levels, right? Like, he goes to church with me and he reads the scriptures, and he's probably a lot further along than what I think, but he's still, I've been like, please, I just want to go to the temple. Please, I just want to go to the temple with him, right?
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. And when it was on Thursday night, we kind of started talking, and it wasn't like heated or anything, but it was an uncomfortable conversation because, I'm just real. And I'm like, listen, dude, like, if you don't want the same things in your life, then you got to do something different. You can't keep doing the same things you're doing and expect a different outcome. Like, if you want something different and want to be closer to him, then you need to do something different. Listen to a talk on your way to work. Like, this hasn't come easy for me. Like, I've had to do all these things, and I could tell he was like kind of twitching at me. And I don't know if I handled it the right way, right? Because sometimes I could be a little bit too much, just my personality. And so that night after, like when he was asleep, I got up and just went to my closet and just praying, like, help me to know how to help him. Like, I don't know how to help him. Help me to know what to say to him to help him like get to this next level of what he needs to be. I don't know what to do. Instead of being angry, because sometimes like I see things and he doesn't, and it makes me angry because he doesn't do anything to fix it. So anyway, the next morning, like he was so sweet. He sent me a text and just said, I'm really going to try harder. I appreciate what you said. And again, I don't know where it came from, but the text that I sent to him was actually pretty dang awesome. And it was basically just telling him, listen, I think Satan's working on you really hard. And he is, because he knows that the second you make this next step, that you and I both are going to be a force to reckon with, because we're going to be together and we're going to help people that were in the same places that we were. And we're going to be helping to lift them out, Greg. Like we're the story of it. And, and you're going to be the one to lead your brothers home to where Jordan and Melanie, who his sister who just passed away, like they're going to be waiting for us. And like, you can do it. Like you have the one thing that a lot of people have to learn, and that is the love of Jesus, like Jesus Christ. He loves like Christ does. He loves people where they're at. He loves unconditionally. And that's something that I've had to learn. I'm like, you can do it. You have so many other gifts that once you get to this next level, you're going to see and be amazed by. And he texted me back and was like, thank you so much, Angie. Like that's what I needed to hear. Like, and I was like, whoa, 1 point for me. Thank you. Like it was so good. Then normally Satan gets in my ear that's like, oh, like, you need to tell him this or this. And it's not the right thing. It makes it worse.
Yeah.
So it's like all in that one day.
I love that you prayed for it. You're getting your answers of how to hear him. And then just one thing I would put there that's helped me in my own marital journey is to pray that I can accept my husband's journey at his pace. And because sometimes I'll be like, man, are we even the same place? And then my husband gets up and gives a talk in sacrament meeting. And I went, dang, like I didn't realize that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, wow. So just kind of that moment of being able to say, hey, help me to be supportive and patient as you lead him along. And I'm the supporter. Says that's hard. So
I love that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But great job. I love that. And because you need that foundational as we continue to move through this. And I can guarantee you will see a ripple effect of being in the DTLC. We've talked about the pushback, but one thing I didn't mention as much in the breakout session last time was the ripples that will come to you and your family and the blessings that you will see, that just by being here, just by showing up, that you're like, I had nothing to do with that, but look at these blessings that are coming. So to my family members. So I just want to share that too. So, okay, Taylor, any wins and learning for you this week?
Yeah, so yesterday I was able to sit down with Connie to go over like my big message and narrowed that down. That was super helpful because I've been so confused over it. It's been so big. I was like, how do I narrow this down? And so that was so helpful, like meeting with her and being able to not only like narrow it down, which we still have to like work it even more, but then really like come out with like my 5 outcomes and be like, oh yeah, maybe I can do this. So because I feel like I've just been so overwhelmed, because I tend to like look at like point A and point Z and be like, I got to go from here to here, and forget that there's all these like letters in between, and be like, oh,
and it might be that you go to point L and then back to point B, and that, because the Lord's like, no, my alphabet's different.
yeah,
Alphabet soup, right?
that's yeah. So I'm like, oh, it's okay if I am like baby stepping this. I don't have to just jump to the end. And that was good to know, and that I don't have to like help everybody. It's
Mhm.
okay to just help a little bit
Yeah.
of people, and that's okay. So, and then I really liked Connie's little message this morning about praying for like desires. And so that was kind of like an answer to one of my things that I've been studying. And so that in a roundabout way was an answer to one of my prayers, but that was so obvious, but I'm just too bullheaded to realize that you can pray for that.
You know what? I wouldn't say it's too bullheaded. I would say it's very feminine and very what we do, right? Because that is so how we do it, because we get so focused on nurturing and helping others' needs, we forget that we can pray for what we want. And because we don't want to feel selfish, right? And is what I'm going to do going to put somebody else back? But the Lord wants us to pray for what we need so we can become as He sees us, right? So I loved that. I love these. These are great. And Jerusha, when you hop back on, she may be on a call. I know sometimes kids are home. So I love these. And these are awesome. Angie, have you met with Connie yet, or is that this week that you're meeting with her?
I meet with her today. Actually, after we're done
Awesome.
here, then I meet with her.
Perfect. That's great. Because that is definitely your first action step, right? Is to meet with her. And Taylor, we see that you already set up a second call with her. She's like, oh, she already set up one with me.
Yeah,
is that right?
Like, hi, mine is such a hot mess. She's like, we probably need two.
No, that's what we're here for. And here's why. Because when we talk about Foundation 5, I will tell you that everything you do in this first section that's what we call it foundation, is because everything builds on it. Because when we get to tier 1, which you'll be doing hopefully within the next week or two, that it shouldn't take, we're hoping to move you like that you're able to be able to get that as you meet with Connie, you review these modules, like just like you said, oh, I got my 5 outcomes. That is one of those Foundation 5 things. Because when we get to tier 1, branding and alignment means that you are aligned with your one big message and your outcomes. When we get to social media, everything we do in there is based on your pain points and ideal life and your one big message. That's how, so getting this foundation is so important. Do I want you to overthink it? No. But do I want you to like be able to feel like you're getting solid, being able to move forward, where you're getting to a point where you know it's going to be massaged, as you've listened to these other women and talk a little bit how it's morphed a little bit. But I would say it's just getting clear and better. Just like you said, okay, I went from here to here and I'm trying to go to here, right? And that's what we're going to do. So
I feel like I'm on revision like number 5,000.
yeah.
And I think we'll need the full like 40 minutes, but she's like, schedule it just in case. So.
But you know what? Here's the thing is, when that comes to you, that's what is going to be fantastic, because you're going to be able to narrow that down, and then you're going to feel confident about what you're sharing. And so that's it. Give me just 1 second. Hold on. Sorry, I have a little one home today, so we've got this fun sore throat cough thing going around. So
we had that last week. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's harder for her because she's so social that being stuck at home is hard. So, okay, so let's hop into, how many of you have been into the member vault already, into the disciple-thought-leaders.com? Have both of you been into that? Can you say hi?
Hi.
Hello.
That's
you, girl.
She's been with me since the beginning of this. She's used to Zooms. She's like, she comes in and sees, oh, Zooms. Okay, so hopping in, I'm going to share my screen real quick because I just want to kind of walk you through where we're at. So this is if I'm in Member Vault, right? And you are going to be here under Foundation 5. So as you go through this, as you go ahead and click in here, each one, I know make sure at the bottom, even after you viewed this, you can go back. At the bottom, if it hasn't say it's been completed, it will say complete or submit lesson or whatever. Hit that green button to make sure you hit all the green buttons, because as you finish this, you'll be able, so like this one, I'm like, mark as complete, right? So does that make sense? Like, even though I have all these things here, you can always come back to them. The whole idea though, is to be able to mark as complete so that you can, when it's time to go to tier 1, you'll automatically be unlocked and you don't have to wait for me to unlock it for you, if that makes sense. So as you go in here, so the weekly goal review, I'm actually going to update this. This is the one, Angie, you filled out, right? This is when you filled out. So I'm going to put the new one in here so that next week you'll have the rate and review. You can either do it through the WhatsApp I send you, or in here, it will be the same form. And one thing on this that we didn't talk about, did Katrina, when she did your onboarding, did she mention rewards to either one of you?
Like, yeah, you have like a little reward for yourself, but I didn't know what. I was like, well, should I go buy myself some shoes? And like, I didn't know what to put.
So the whole idea behind rewarding yourself is that, first of all, is when you tie motivate, like your reward to a goal, it just does something in your brain, right? Like, it's just like, oh yeah, I did that. Even if it's something you would do normally, like, oh, I can buy myself flowers any day of the week. That's one of my favorite rewards, is to buy myself flowers. And I'm like, I could do that anytime. But when I tie it specifically to efforts I've worked on, it just means more. It adds some more meaning to it. Now, here's the thing about rewards. You don't reward yourself for perfection. Okay, all efforts matter. So if you're like, okay, this week, I think I got a 1 on my goal because everything broke loose, everybody was sick, I didn't get to work on anything. Guess what? All efforts matter. Even if it was like, okay, we survived, get yourself a reward. It could be something small. It could be, and I can find you a little, if you're like, I need ideas, we've got a list of ideas of rewards you could do, which is give yourself some time alone. Go for a ride in the car by yourself. You know, like, what is it that you could do that's sweet? Go get yourself a crumble cookie. Go, you know, anything that would just be rewarding to you and nurturing to you. And so we just encourage you to do that. And we encourage you to take that reward, because sometimes we just be like, no, I can't, or I didn't do it. Do it. Take that reward. Okay. So then the next thing, so this is, and I actually need to update this here, because we're going to add in here the pain points, ideal life, and your signature solution, right? Which you all know, hopefully all this stuff is starting to sound familiar. So you're going to work on your one big message, your one big outcome, your one big thing, right? And when you come to this lesson on here, we've got it, what guidebook page it is, so that you can go back and see your notes from the retreat. And we've got these videos. Some of them you might not need to watch, but they'll be a good review. Okay. And then your business structure is basically, as you're structuring that service offer tier, when you meet with Connie, you're doing your business vision. And then at the end, it's got these questions. What is your one big message? So Taylor, you could go in and put it in now, or you can wait till after you meet with Connie next week, right? Again, what is your one big outcome? Or it should be 3 to 5. Right? And then what is your one big thing? Like, is it speaking? Is it a book? Is it an event? Like, you are all going to do speaking, just so you know, you will all go through the speaking track after this. But, you know, what's your one big thing? Does that make sense? Is it events? Is it retreats? Is it, I'm writing a book? Is it, I'm going to be doing a podcast? Does that make sense? Okay. And then you'll submit your answers, because then I get to go back and see it. Your audience avatar. This is just a quick, if you don't need to watch this whole thing, don't feel like you have to, but that has the pages in your guidebook, and you fill it out, and you can just take a picture of it and send it in WhatsApp or text it to me when you do it. It's basically who you're speaking to. Okay. And if you have questions with that, that's something else that you'll go over with, or we can come back and be like, okay, here's my audience avatar. This is who I'm speaking to. And we will come back each week and we'll like talk about a couple of these things. Okay. The pain points in ideal life in your signature solution. This is only a 10-minute video. But on the pain points ideal life, do you remember talking about that in the retreat? Well, what are their pain points? What's their ideal life? And then we come up with that signature solution. Okay. And then again, we'll have that in here where you will answer that. Now, as you get stuck, that's what we're here for, to come and help you with. And then the last part of Foundation 5 is your service offering staircase. Okay. And that is where you'll fill out that staircase. This is a short video about how to do that. Did you start working on that, Taylor, with Connie, or no?
No, we didn't get that far.
Okay. And that's okay, because once you get your one big message, we can help you do that too. Does that make sense? Like, but go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Like,
okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. Sometimes I talk over people, so I apologize for that. But that we'll come back and we'll fill that out. And as we move on to tier 1, I will help you with that too, because as we get into tier 1, that's when, so Foundation 5 is getting all of this stuff, your messaging, all of those things done, so that when we get to your service offer staircase, basically in tier 1, that's what we start working on is, oh, we're going to help you make sure your social media is aligned. We're going to show you how to do your freebie download, right? All of those things. So, but this is where you start first. Some people, they get it done in a week because they're like, boom, I'm done. Some it might take a couple weeks, and that's okay too. So, but that's why getting in with Connie. So your first thing would be, if you're going to meet with Connie this week, that would be that, working on your one big message. So your goal this week might be, what is your one big message? Like, I'm going to niche down my one big message, or maybe you're going to come watch a couple modules and help you with that. Does that make sense? Work on my Foundation 5 modules. Okay. So that's basically Foundation 5 and moving towards that. So with that being said, would either one of you like to share your one big message, where it is now? And it's okay if it's not. Remember, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking at who would like to share? Taylor, would you like to share where you are at now with yours with Connie?
Yeah, let me just pull it up real quick.
Yeah. And as you do as you're pulling that up, when you get your one big message, did you notice last week when we had the women sharing it, some of them were looking up and around? I highly recommend once you get it, that you'll post it somewhere where you can see it and read it often, like an affirmation. Because eventually it will start feeling very natural to you. Like Connie can now just say, we train certain women to become writers, speakers, and media presences for him, right? But in the beginning, it was like, okay, now wait, what's coming out? How is this coming out? And so.
Okay, I've got it. Sorry.
Okay, let's do it.
My drive, it decided to close. So.
You're good.
Okay. I'm a faith-based speaker who teaches enduring women how to increase their capacity to navigate deep trials as they expand their emotional resiliency through effectively using spiritual tools, seeking and expecting miracles, and finding joy with the support of a community of like-minded women. So it's still lengthy. So I'm like, and Connie still are going to figure out, or if you can help me figure out how to smush it down a lot.
Okay, so I'm a faith-based, and what was it? A faith-based
speaker or teacher. I don't know. We've changed that a couple times to speaker who teaches enduring women. And then we were still trying to figure out if we do enduring or if we change that, but women, how to increase their capacity to navigate deep trials as they expand their emotional resiliency through effectively using spiritual tools.
Okay, go back to increase their capacity to.
It's it's a hot mess. We were literally just
No, it's okay. I'm just writing it down. No, it's good. I want to be able to mark them down. So
No,
to
you're
increase
good. I'm like,
capacity to endure deep trials, or is that what it was? To
yeah, deep
endure?
trials. Yeah, we
Mhm.
just have like pinpoints,
Yep.
and then I'm trying to like put it together.
Yep. So then what's your next one? So what's the next outcome?
As they expand their emotional resiliency through effectively using spiritual tools, seeking and expecting miracles, and finding joy with the support of like-minded women.
I like everything that it says.
Oh,
too.
thanks.
I'm just writing it down so I could look at it.
Oh, you're good. I'm like, I can copy and paste it in the chat if that's easy.
And that works too. That works too. I'm a faith-based speaker teacher who teaches enduring women to increase their spiritual capacity, deep trials, expand emotional resilience through effective spiritual tools, seeking and expecting miracles, joy and support of like-minded in a community. I'm just like, I wrote down the nuggets, right?
Yeah.
So I love this. So basically, they're expanding their emotional resiliency, and the spiritual tools are seeking, inspecting miracles, finding joy. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I'm with Angie. It's hard to take it out, right? It's hard to take
I know.
anything
That's
out.
like, how do you take stuff out but like make it smaller when so?
And so that would be. So is it that? Do you already have an idea of what tools they're going to be using, or not yet?
Kind of, yeah. Like, continual, like having a continual prayer in your heart, and like waking up early, or like finding like time in your day, like a sacred hour where you can like study, and, like have your like to like set your mind in like a good place, and trying to find like a good like Taylorism for that.
Yeah, I was like your sacred hour, your sacred mindset hour, or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
Angie, feel free to jump in, or Jerusha, anytime if you're like, oh, okay.
Like I call it my mornings with Jesus, but I don't know if that's appropriate.
I love that. Mornings with Jesus. I like that. Okay, I love this. This is something definitely. I love that how you've been coming up with that, because basically, so what I'm hearing, and you said 5 outcomes, but I am seeing 4, which is to increase their spiritual capacity to endure deep trials, to expand their emotional resilience through using effective spiritual tools, 3, seeking and expecting miracles, and connecting with like-minded women, right? Or it's so that they could get the joy and support of like-minded women, right?
And yeah, and then taking time out every day to like reset and recharge. And
so
like in the tools.
And that might be one that you, put in with your tools, right? Jerusha, and I don't know that she wants to take out deep, because she's looking for women, those specific women. So she's saying, do you want to take out deep trials so you can help them at any depth? But you're looking for women who are like feeling overwhelmed, right? Is that?
Yeah, overwhelmed. And I could take out deep, because I guess anyone with trials that would kind of go with, but I guess it's just like how niche of a I'm wanting to get.
Right. And you will get, and this is something we'll talk about, is like, right, you want to get really niched on who you're helping. Yes, you will help others outside of that niche, but the ones that you're like, no, if you really stay focused on that, it's amazing how much more effective you'll be, and it's easy for you to stay focused because it's easy to go squirrel, 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 like.
Yeah, and I kind of have ADD, so that's
So do I.
So, right. So it's like,
You're in good company.
yeah, I think a lot of us, right? It's like, oh, shiny. That's shiny. That's a great message. Oh, I love that. Right. And it's easy. And I feel you because there are things that I feel strongly about that I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like the world needs to hear my opinion on this. And I'm like, wait, does that go back with my one big message? Maybe not. Like I can have that opinion, but at the same time, maybe this isn't the platform to do that. Does that make sense? And so, and sometimes it really does go in there, but I'm not quite sure how it goes there yet. Does that make sense?
Like I can be creative and get it in there.
Yes. So Taylor, Jerusha has a question. So with the deep, she says, unclear as to what the implications of deep trials mean.
Yeah, so maybe I need to like change that word because
is it like health? Is it because deep trials could be, so are you thinking any struggles, like somebody finds out that, what does deep trials mean to you?
Like, yeah, just like you're feeling so overwhelmed, like, I don't know, all the struggles.
Or is it like the deep trials in the enduring deep trials? Like meaning, like for instance, in your case, right, where you have some health issues in a close family member, it's not going to go away anytime soon. It's not like a quick fix situation, right?
Well, see, like I've had health, but we've also had like a lot of other like really hard things too. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like just kind of enduring ones.
Like, is it like traumatic ones? Because a lot of the ones that you've gone through have caused trauma, right? So, and not saying that that's a better word, but what I was thinking is like, you have your big picture one, but could you put deep into like your like slogan one to like bring?
Yeah, so maybe more, like more of like a trauma based, more enduring, like.
So trauma, when I hear trauma, I think it's like sudden and like, it's like cutting off your arm, right? It's very traumatic. But that's not, I'm not saying that's what you mean, because a traumatic trial can be something that just, you had something, but it's still residually like there, like, right? So
yeah, it kind of sounds like, it's not like going away. Like you still have to like deal with it, but make life work. And like, I guess long suffering, but that's like depressing. I may have to pull out a thesaurus or something.
It's funny because when you say long suffering, I'm like, when we know what that really means versus what we think of, right?
Right.
So,
I know, so I know, just like hard things, like
we want to turn Eeyores into we want to find the balance between Eeyore and Tigger, right? Right. I love it. This gives us something to work with. I love this. Anybody else have any thoughts on this for her?
I think like what they said, it's going to be a work in progress. I look at mine and I'm like you. Like I want that in there, and I want that in there, and I want that in there. And I guess I think you'll figure it out along the way. And don't stress about it, because I've been like so stressed about it that it's made me paralyzed. Like I haven't wanted to do anything.
Like I get my perfectionism and I'm like,
one way I did it, and is as you say it, like to write down, I like to bullet point it. Does that make sense? And then that way, like, cause it's going to come in that, but then I'm like, okay, here are my, my, 5 outcomes, right? Or my 4 or 5 outcomes. And okay, now how does that fit? How do we say that to increase spiritual capacity and also expand their emotional resilience? I see how those are 2 separate things.
Yeah, I was like, Connie really felt like the increased capacity needed to be in there. And I was like, I wasn't super attached to that line, but she's like, oh, President Monson, or not Monson.
Nelson, yeah, President
Sorry,
Nelson.
I'm so tired. I'm like, he will.
I know what you meant.
it.
Yeah. To increase our spiritual capacity to endure deep trials, to expand emotional resilience using effective spiritual tools. Because that basically just build on your spiritual capacity.
Yeah.
To seek and expect miracles and to find the joy and support of like-minded women.
Yeah, and I was like, the spiritual tools, I was like, or the emotional resiliency, like I could like keep or get rid of either of those. Because I feel like they're kind of like one and the same. But
and maybe it's to increase their spiritual and emotional capacity to endure cheap trials using effective spiritual tools. But I don't know.
That again.
To increase their spiritual and emotional capacity. But resilience means you're able to bounce back. And capacity means that you're able to hold more, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I can handle more and I can bounce back, like knowing, like, for example, you get news of something happening in your family suddenly that you're like, all right, I'm going to let this hit me, right? But it's okay, I got it because I know how I'm going to get through it and I'm not going to let it keep me down for so long, right? It's not going to paralyze me as long as maybe it used to, right?
Yeah.
And so,
oh, you can go. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying that's a good thought.
Yeah. So kind of keep that visualization of what that is, because then I love basically, okay, I'm able to bounce back. You know, I'm able to use my tool belt. I'm able to bounce back. And now I'm going to seek and I love how he said seek and expect. You know, I'm going to like know how to seek and expect those miracles. And then I'm going to connect with other women. And so, right, I'm going to have a support group, right? Is that basically it?
Yeah.
So kind of play with that for a minute. But when we get one day when you're going to be like, okay, well, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I help women who are going through deep trials to be able to increase their spiritual capacity, expand their emotional resilience, seek and expect miracles, and connect to receive joy and support with like-minded women. Do you see how it's like that same thing, but we just kind of like took out some of those extra words?
Yes, that's a lot better. So
yeah. And you can come back and listen to this and be like, okay, does that fit? And then your signature solution might be say, okay, here's the tools I'm going to give you. 1, you do this. 2, you do this, right? 1, I'm going to have a sacred, you know, I'm going to keep a prayer in my heart. Then I'm going to have my sacred hour, or maybe it's the opposite way. And 3, you know, does that make sense? Like that's what your solution is going to be. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. So does that help? Okay. Angie, how about you? And I know you're going to be meeting with Connie, but where are you at?
Okay, so I just have, I design Christ-centered events with a purpose, gathering experts with tools to help you break the cycle of old thoughts and patterns.
Do you have it? Will you type it in the chat again? It's nice to see it. And Jerusha, you can put yours in there too, so they can see where yours has come a long way too.
Oh yeah, yes it has.
And while she's doing that, something else we're going to do, and I forgot to mention this, is we are going to set up accountability partners. So as you come up with like your one big messages, you're going to share them with each other that week, right? And be like, okay, that way you can either decide if you're in a Marco Polo or you're text each other back and forth and say, okay, here are some thoughts I have back and forth on what you do. So this, I design Christ-centered events with a purpose. Oh yeah. Christ-centered purposeful events, right? But I know what you mean. Events with a
Oh
purpose.
yeah, it's events with a
Together.
purpose is what we
Together,
have.
experts with tools. And so, and because your events aren't necessarily focused on one specific group yet, right? And
Well,
that's
I
one thing
mean,
is you do.
I guess they can be, but at this time, no, I mean, really, mine is more of trauma. Like people with abuse that have been abused, that have lost a child, lost a parent at a young age, and have suffered
Mhm.
trauma that has residually stayed with them, that has given them old thoughts and patterns that they've continued to use in a cycle that
Mhm.
has them react in ways that they don't really need those thought patterns anymore.
So one thing I would encourage you to do, Angie, is I'm looking at this, is to start looking at your audience avatar sheet on page 12 and 13 and really focus, because yeah, you could do all these events and gather people, but it might be more effective to say, I do a specific type of event, right?
Right.
And where you said traumatic events, but really narrowing that down, is it for, because like, for instance, like I might go to an event that's about parents who have lost children,
Well, my
but
whole
it's
thing though
because I would,
is
like, are you so many events versus what type of events you're doing? Does that make sense?
right. And I think like eventually I'll have like a spin-off of it. But here's my thinking and kind of what I said at the retreat. Like I do large scale events, not something that's little,
Right.
like there's a
Right.
large scale events, what I have done my whole life.
Mhm.
And I feel like that we knew each other before we got here, and
Mhm.
we were meant to find, right, who we were supposed to help. We said we would help them before they came, whether it is someone that's struggling with a parent with a kid with autism, or someone who their husband is addicted to porn. Or my thing is to get all of these women together that are like the Connies, or like Katrina, or
Mhm.
everything that we're all trying to do in one room, and
Mhm.
it's like a conference, okay, like not just like an event, like, but a conference that he'll bring those people and spark an interest, and he'll bring them there to get in front of the person that they need to get in front of, to hear what they need to hear. That's
So
my
you're
goal.
going for the higher source. You're not necessarily going for the people who are struggling.
They're
You are
struggling
going
in all different ways, right?
Mhm.
So it's like a large scale. Yes, like for my own self, that's why I've kind of struggled with this, with and events. Like I
Mhm.
know that's what I was
So,
meant to
but my
do.
thing, what I'm hearing you say is you're gathering the experts to synergize, to go out and do their own things? Or are you
No,
gathering
so
experts to teach people? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know you're going to pull people in to do events, but are the events for the people here, or the people right? Like you want Connie to come and teach at your event. Is that what you mean?
no, these
Or
people
you
are
want her to
already
be
established and they have their own. So it'd be like a
okay.
conference type deal with one. Yes, we would have like speakers, right? And they would come in and listen. It would be like a couple 2-3 day event, right? For women. Probably women in the church first, right? But and then I would also have booths. So they would have booth areas that people could, hey, this is either,
So it's like networking. It's a networking event.
right. That's my forte, is bringing it all together.
Okay.
Right, to break a cycle, whether it's a cycle.
So you might. So yeah, you might. So that's why I'm hearing two different, like at the thing I was thinking, oh, you're going to help people who've been abused to come in, and you will, but it's more of that ripple. It's more that you're bringing in, and so you might say Christ-centered networking event, because you're gathering those experts to all come there. But then you want to invite people who like I've lost a child and I want to come there because there's going to be learning for me, or people I can connect with.
That know how to help you through that process, right? So it is like,
so you're
I
gathering
connect
both.
people. That's one of my gifts, is you ask me something, like I know somebody who can help you.
Yeah,
like,
I know I know 5 foundations, right?
Right.
Or
So
whatever.
that's like my main focus right now. Like I know I've known I was supposed to do that for a while, but
So
then I have like my own, right, which is helping those from the deep dark despair of that.
So kind of sit with that and ask Heavenly Father which direction to have you go and how to be more niched. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because say, okay, and maybe it shifts, you know, throughout time, but going, who is it? I let Taylor's like an education week, you know, where everybody comes and teaches, where you have all these people teaching, but I can go pick what classes I want to go to.
Right. So there's like one
Right.
big, there's breakout sessions there. So you come to one big event and I'll speak and talk about, you know, my
Mhm.
own story, or because I've gone through so many different trials, right?
Yeah.
And then it will be, okay, we've got, have some highlight little speakers each day when they come, and then it's breakout sessions. And then they've got like all these booths for when they come beforehand or after, that they can be like, oh my gosh, like I need this for my child. I need this, like
Yeah.
we're moms and we're looking for that for us and for everybody else,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so to me, it's because like Education Week, their thing is like, it's gospel based. It's, you know, BYU, you know, I mean, it is niched in that sense. I mean, it's open to anybody who wants to come, but I would encourage you to like, just think, okay, how does that, because for me, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a smorgasbord. Is it too broad? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so go, okay, where do I need to start? And maybe it's that you're starting with one specific audience and then you're moving to the next. Does that make sense? Or like 3. I'm trying to.
That's why I've been so confused, because I know what I'm supposed to do. And I know I'm supposed to gather people, all women and teens, right? Like kind of all in one
Mhm.
in one place, because you're not just struggling with one thing. You're
And you
not.
just said women and teens, which was different. Because women and teens is different than saying parents or adults who are struggling, right? So you just said women's and teens. So do you
Women and
see
young
how?
women.
Yeah. And so that's even more niched. Does that make sense? So instead of gathering experts, and it wouldn't just be to help you, to help women and young women and teenage girls. Do you know what I mean? Do you see how that's like niched a little bit? How you just said that, like, oh, I see that. What word fits there? It doesn't mean that the experts are all women, but it's who are you helping, right? So does that make sense? What I'm saying is like, as you're doing that, write down some of those words. And that's what that audience avatar will help you do, is who is it that you're helping? And just to start brainstorming that. And I love that Drusha says this, like, it's hard to niche down because you're like, no, but I know I'm supposed to help all these people. But the truth is, like, when you niche, you'll help more people, because then people won't be confused as to who you're helping and what your messaging is.
Feels counterintuitive, but it's actually better.
It does. And so that's why I say you just really kind of like, sometimes I'll say, do a visualization exercise, which I can tell you've been doing that, Angie, and you just get very clear and just say, okay, imagine this event. Who is there? Like, what do they look like? What are they eating? I mean, that's what that audience avatar worksheet helps you work through. What are they eating? Like, where are they coming from? Who is there? What are their ages? You know, it's going to help you, and use, you know, ask Heavenly Father to help you open that and see it as you get those pieces. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I would encourage you, as we wrap up, the goal this week, and sorry, Jerusha, we didn't jump into yours,
Okay.
but I would encourage you. So we're going to, I'm going to have you guys connect with accountability partners to be able to like ditch. But what we're going to do is we'll probably do that next week, because I want to make sure I know everybody who's staying in Foundation 5 and Tier 1, because we have a few who are moving on to the speaking track. But let's work on your one big messages, post them in the WhatsApp, and then I would work on that audience avatar. Those would be one of those 2 suggestions. If you're like, nope, I'm still that one big message, then, you know, if it's meeting with Connie, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? So focus on that one big, both of you are still focused on that one big message. And again, I would say, encourage you to look at that audience avatar, that section. Okay. Does that sound good? Okay.
Can I ask you a question real fast?
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I'm just writing down. and please don't make fun of me, but sometimes I have to ask, like, can you tell me exactly what I'm supposed to, how I'm supposed to word, like what I'm supposed to pray for? Just help me.
I
with
would
that,
help
please.
help you to pray to know who it is that you are helping,
Okay.
and how to niche down a little bit on your audience and your message. Does that make sense? And never apologize for that, because that is super helpful. Like for all
I'm
of us.
still learning about the gospel.
We
and what
all
you know what
are.
I mean? It's so,
Okay, yeah.
Everybody
like-
is. Everybody always is.
Yeah.
But
Angie,
it's-
again, you're going to learn that you're further along than you realize in your journey, because a lot of your journey happened before. Does that make sense? Like you're like, oh, I do listen. I have learned. Like just because I'm real doesn't mean I don't know how to listen to the spirit. Do you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? So it just means you have the gift of boldness, which a lot of women are learning that gift and praying for that gift to be bold. So yeah, pray to know, okay, who is it that I see at these events? And help him to know that specific audience that he needs you to help right now, who needs your message to be able to see it. Okay. And I'll put this in the WhatsApp, and I'll put a couple of those modules of which ones to go watch. So that way you don't have to sit here and go back and try to remember everything. Okay. So work on the one big message. So you each got your call with Connie and your audience avatar. Those would be the two things I would say. Let's get clear on that, because that's going to help your one big message as you're clear on what they're going to do. Okay. All right. Ladies, you're doing awesome. Thank you. If you need to reach out, do you all have Marco Polo?
I should probably download that.
Okay. If that's too much, you can still reach out to me through WhatsApp. Do you have a preference? Do you like, either of you have a preference of what you prefer to reach out on? Okay. Text Marco Polo, whatever. Okay. All right. Sometimes I'm a Marco Polo fan because I like to see faces, but I know sometimes texting is easier when you're like, hey, and just know, I don't care. I say, come as you are, because some days it's with whatever spilled all down the front of you or house a mess, like come as you are. That's what we do. So, all right, you've got this, ladies. We will see you tomorrow. And just as a heads up for DTLC tomorrow, we have, I don't know if any of you have heard of Lady Boss, who she is, but she is going to be a guest, and she's going to be on, start teaching right at 12:30 because she lives in Canada. She's like 2 hours ahead of us. And so we're going to actually come in a little bit early so she can start teaching and teach us from 12:30 to 1. And for you, this is going to be something you're going to put in a little file drawer and put off to the side, because she's going to talk about websites, but she's amazing. I met with Connie and I met her yesterday. She's just awesome. So anyway, so
What time's the best time to get on then?
tomorrow, and I'll put this in the WhatsApp, but we're looking about 12:20-ish to come on. Normally we say hop right on at 12:30, but tomorrow, where she's going to start teaching at 12:30, we'll have like about 10 minutes earlier. So
Then we can have our opening prayer and,
yeah. So, all right. Okay, ladies, anything else? You feel good? Okay. I'm going to send you that set your weekly goal review. I'll put it in the WhatsApp. So when you get a minute today, fill that out. And Angie, you don't need to do that because you already did it. So if that makes sense. So no worries. Okay. And Jerusha, I'll reach out to Marco Polo. I have to ask you a question. So,
Okay.
All right.
all right.
Okay. Love you,
Sounds
ladies.
good.
And we will see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Bye.